The Silent Watchers. The observation deck of the Galactic Council station hummed with the usual chatter of 1,000 species. Ambassador Kelrix of the VRYN Collective stood before the massive viewport, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue marble spinning in the darkness below. Earth. The newest applicant to the Council. The most primitive species to ever reach this stage of consideration. They still use combustion engines, muttered Councillor Thess, her crystalline body refracting the starlight into rainbow patterns. Their fastest ships barely reached their own moon in 3 days. Why are we even discussing this? Kelrix didn't turn from the viewport. Because they asked. And in 10,000 years of Council history, we have never denied a species the right to present their case. A formality, Thess replied. They will be rejected. As they should be. Look at them down there, Kelrix. They fight among themselves. They poison their own world. They have not even unified their planetary government. They are centuries away from being ready. Kelrix finally turned, his primary eyes meeting hers while his secondary pair continued watching Earth. And yet they built a ship that reached us. With technology we would have called impossible for their development level. Luck, Thess said dismissively. Perhaps. Kelrix moved toward the central chamber where the council would convene in 1 hour. Or perhaps something else. The human delegation had arrived 3 days earlier. Only 5 of them. Not the usual entourage of hundreds that most applicant species brought. 5 humans in a ship that looked like it had been assembled from scrap metal and hope. The lead diplomat was a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen. She had smiled when she stepped onto the station, a curious expression that showed her teeth. Many species found it disturbing. Kelrix found it fascinating. He had studied humans extensively in the weeks since their request arrived. They were a young species, barely out of their own solar system. Their planet was a mess of conflicting ideologies and political systems. Their technology was crude. Their lifespans were desperately short. By every metric the Council used, they should not be here. And yet. Kelrix accessed his personal data tablet, reviewing his notes once more. Humans had gone from first powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 years. The VRYN had taken 4 centuries to accomplish the same feat. Humans had survived 2 global wars that should have rendered their planet uninhabitable. They had faced extinction-level disasters and thrived. They had taken a world with no natural defenses and transformed it into a fortress of civilization. They were either the luckiest species in the galaxy, or the most stubborn. Ambassador Kelrix, a soft voice said behind him. He turned to find Dr. Chen herself, standing alone in the corridor. She wore a simple blue suit, no ceremonial robes or status symbols like most diplomats preferred. Her dark hair was pulled back, and those strange human eyes watched him with an intensity that was almost predatory. Dr. Chen, Kelrix replied, inclining his head in the gesture of respect he had learned from human records. You should be preparing for the session. I am prepared, she said simply. She stepped closer, and Kelrix noted that she was small even by human standards. Most species would have been intimidated by his 2-meter height and 4-armed frame. She seemed merely curious. Ambassador, may I ask you a question? Of course. Do you think we have a chance? Kelrix considered lying. Diplomacy often required it. But something in her direct gaze made him choose honesty. No, he said. By every standard measurement, humanity is not ready for Council membership. You will be rejected today. She nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already knew. And if I told you that we know that? That we came anyway? Then I would ask why you wasted the resources and risked the journey. Dr. Chen's mouth curved into that tooth-bearing expression again. The smile. Because being told no is not the same as accepting it. We wanted you to see us. Not our data. Not our statistics. Us. 5 humans who traveled farther than any of our species has ever gone, in a ship we built with our own hands, to stand before the oldest civilization in the galaxy and say we exist. We are here. And someday, whether you accept us today or 1,000 years from now, we will stand among you as equals. Kelrix felt something unusual. Among the VRNN, it would be called resonance. A moment when two minds touched across the vast gulf of biology and culture and found common ground. You are either very brave or very foolish, Dr. Chen. We've been called both, she said. Usually at the same time. She turned to leave, then paused. My great-grandmother used to say that humans are defined by one thing above all others. We don't know when to quit. It's gotten us into trouble more times than I can count. But it's also why we're still here. She looked back at him. See you in the chamber, Ambassador. Kelrix watched her walk away, her small form disappearing into the corridor. He looked down at his tablet, at all the carefully compiled evidence of why humanity should be rejected. The data was clear. The logic was sound. The decision was already made. And yet something in that brief conversation had shifted. Something small but significant. Because Dr. Chen was right about one thing, being told no was not the same as accepting it. The VRNN had been members of the Council for 8,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall. They had witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. And in all that time, Kelrix had never met a species quite like humanity. He began walking toward the council chamber, his mind already composing the speech he would give. It would not change the outcome. But perhaps it would plant a seed. Because if humans truly were defined by not knowing when to quit, then this would not be the last time the council heard from them. The question was, what would humanity do when faced with rejection? Kelrix suspected that answer would be far more interesting than the vote itself. The unexpected defense. The council chamber was a masterpiece of engineering that had taken 3 centuries to build. A spherical room 500 meters across, with seating for representatives from all 247 member species. At the center floated a platform where applicants would present their case, surrounded by a holographic display that could show data, images, or testimony from anywhere in the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on that platform now, looking impossibly small in the vast space. Her 4 colleagues remained on their ship, as per protocol. Only the lead diplomat was permitted to address the council directly. Kelrix watched from his assigned seat among the VRNN delegation. Around him, representatives whispered in a dozen different languages, their translators creating a soft symphony of synthetic voices. Most were not paying close attention. This was a formality. Everyone knew the outcome. Chancellor Vrax of the Tholian Empire called the session to order. His massive form, triple the size of a human, dominated the upper tier of the chamber. We convene to hear the application of species designation 77394. Common name, humanity. World designation, Earth. Dr. Sarah Chen, you may present your case. Sarah bowed slightly, another gesture she had learned from studying council protocols. Thank you, Chancellor. Honored members of the Council. I stand before you not to argue that humanity has achieved what your great civilizations have accomplished. We have not. Our technology is primitive by your standards. Our society is fractured. Our understanding of the universe is limited. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Most applicants spent hours listing their achievements, trying to prove their worth. Sarah was doing the opposite. We are young, she continued. By council standards, we are infants. The VRNN achieved interstellar flight when my ancestors were still living in caves. The Tholians had mapped half this galaxy when we were learning to make fire. You have every statistical reason to reject our application today. Then why are we here? Counselor Thess called out, her voice sharp with impatience. If you know you are unworthy, why waste our time? Sarah turned toward the crystalline being, her expression calm. Because we believe the council measures the wrong things. The murmurs grew louder. Kelrix leaned forward slightly. This was not the speech he had expected. You measure technology, Sarah said. Ship speed, energy output, computational power. You measure stability. Unified governments, low crime rates, efficient resource distribution. You measure knowledge. Scientific discoveries, philosophical frameworks, mathematical proofs. She paused. These are all important. But they are not what defines a species. They are what a species has done. Not what a species is. Chancellor Vrax's voice boomed across the chamber. And what do you believe defines a species, Dr. Chen? How they respond when everything goes wrong, Sarah said simply. She gestured, and the holographic display sprang to life around her. Images of Earth filled the chamber. Cities in ruins. Forests burning. Oceans choked with debris. This is my world. We have made terrible mistakes. We have fought wars that nearly destroyed us. We have poisoned our own air and water. We have created weapons that could end all life on our planet in hours. You prove our point, Thess said coldly. You are a danger to yourselves and others. Perhaps, Sarah acknowledged. But look closer. The images shifted. The same ruined cities, now rebuilt. The same forests, now growing back. The same oceans, now being cleaned. Every time we fall, we get back up. Every time we break something, we try to fix it. We are not perfect. We are not wise. But we are stubborn beyond all reason, and we refuse to accept that any problem is unsolvable. She gestured again, and new images appeared. Humans of different colors and sizes, working together. Strange vehicles moving through rubble, pulling survivors from destroyed buildings. Laboratories where scientists studied diseases. Ships launching into space despite failed previous attempts. 60 years ago, we split the atom, Sarah continued. We created a weapon that terrified us. Many species would have stopped. We did not. We looked at that terrible power and asked, what else can we do with this? Now that same technology powers our cities and heals our sick. 50 years ago, we had a war that killed millions. Many species would have collapsed. We did not. We built organizations to prevent it from happening again. We are still learning. We still fail. But we never stop trying. Kelrix found himself nodding slightly. Around the chamber, he noticed others leaning forward, paying attention now. The council has existed for 10,000 years, Sarah said. You have achieved wonders. You have created peace across hundreds of worlds. You have solved problems that would have destroyed lesser civilizations. But I studied your history, honored members, and I noticed something interesting. She paused. When was the last time you faced a crisis you were not prepared for? Silence fell across the chamber. The VRWN encountered the void plague 6,000 years ago, Sarah continued, her voice gentle but firm. You had the technology to solve it within months. The Thulians faced the Great Schism 4,000 years ago. Your long lifespans and cultural memory meant you could navigate it with minimal loss. The Crystalline Collective dealt with the resonance cascade 2,000 years ago. Your distributed consciousness meant you adapted almost immediately. She turned slowly, addressing the entire council. You are ancient, wise, powerful civilizations. But you have not faced true adversity in millennia. You have forgotten what it means to stare into the void and keep walking forward anyway. You presume much, human, Chancellor Vrax said, but his tone was more curious than angry. I presume nothing, Sarah replied. I simply observe. And I ask you to consider this, what will happen when this council faces something it cannot easily solve? What will you do when your technology fails, when your wisdom is not enough, when your careful planning meets chaos it cannot predict? She spread her hands. You will need someone who specializes in surviving the impossible. Someone too young to know when a problem cannot be solved. Someone too stubborn to accept that failure is final. The holographic display shifted once more, showing the human ship docked at the station. It was, as Tess had noted earlier, assembled from scrap and hope. Mismatched hull plates. Jury-rigged systems. Technology that should not work but somehow did. "We built this ship with resources you would consider inadequate," Sarah said quietly. "We traveled farther than our species should be able to, using mathematics we barely understand. We arrived at this station knowing we would likely be rejected. And we came anyway, because that is what humans do. We attempt the impossible, fail repeatedly, learn from every failure, and keep trying until the impossible becomes merely difficult." She looked directly at Chancellor Vrax. "I am not asking you to accept us as equals today. We are not your equals. Not yet. But I am asking you to consider what humanity brings to this council that no other species can. We bring stubbornness. We bring adaptability. We bring the absolute refusal to accept that any challenge is truly insurmountable." Sarah bowed once more. "The vote is yours, honored council. Whatever you decide, humanity will continue to grow, to learn, and to reach for the stars. The only question is whether the council wants to be part of that journey, or whether you will watch from the sidelines as we fumble our way forward and surprise you with what we accomplish." She stepped back, her presentation complete. Kelrick sat in silence, his mind racing. Around him, the chamber was no longer filled with dismissive murmurs. Representatives were conferring seriously with their aides. Counselor Thess had gone silent, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light. Chancellor Vrax's voice finally broke the silence. "The council will deliberate. Dr. Chen, you will be informed of our decision within the hour." Sarah nodded and was transported off the platform, leaving the council to its debate. The council's gamble. The deliberation chamber was smaller than the main hall, designed for the council's senior members only. 50 representatives sat in a circle, their various forms creating a bizarre gallery of galactic life. Kelrix had been invited as the VRYN expert on emerging species, a role he had held for 3 centuries. Chancellor Vrax wasted no time. "The human has made an unusual argument. We will hear opinions before the vote. Counselor Thess, you have been most vocal in opposition. Speak first." The crystalline being pulsed with irritated light. The human's speech was clever rhetoric, nothing more. She admits their primitiveness, then tries to reframe it as an advantage. Stubbornness is not a virtue when applied to foolish goals. Their refusal to accept limitations has nearly destroyed their own world multiple times. We would be inviting chaos into the council. "Chaos that rebuilt itself every time," said Counselor Morn of the Aquatic Collective, his translated voice bubbling through the chamber. I found her argument compelling. My people faced extinction 3 times in our early history. Each time, it was our refusal to surrender that saved us. We eventually developed wisdom, yes, but survival came first. The humans are where we once were. Precisely my point, Thess countered. They are where you once were. Millions of years ago. They are not ready now. The question is not whether they are ready, Kelrick said quietly. All eyes turned to him. He rarely spoke in deliberations, preferring to observe. The question Dr. Chen posed is whether we are ready for them. Explain, Chancellor Vrax commanded. Kelrick stood, his 4 arms gesturing as he organized his thoughts. In 8,000 years of council membership, the VRWNN have contributed significantly to galactic stability. We are excellent administrators. We maintain order. But I must confess something to this chamber. He paused. We are stagnant. All of us are. Murmurs of protest rippled through the room. When did any species in this chamber last make a truly revolutionary discovery? Kelrix continued. When did we last face a problem we could not solve with existing knowledge? When did we last surprise ourselves? He looked around the circle. Dr. Chen is correct. We have become comfortable. We have optimized our civilizations to near perfection. And in doing so, we have lost something vital. We have lost the ability to innovate under pressure. We maintain the greatest civilization in galactic history, Vess said sharply. That is not stagnation. It is preservation, Kelrix replied. Which is admirable, but insufficient. I have studied humanity for 3 months. Do you know what I found most remarkable? They have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. They do their best work when everything is falling apart around them. During their Second Global War, they advanced their technology by decades in just 6 years. When a disease threatened their population, they developed a vaccine in months that should have taken years. When their own planet began dying from their mistakes, they created entirely new fields of science to save it. Desperate flailing, Vess muttered. Effective desperate flailing, Counselor Morn interjected. How many times did humanity nearly go extinct on their world, Kelrix? Kelrix checked his tablet. By my count, 17 times. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, plagues, wars, and several disasters they caused themselves. Any one of those events would have ended most species. Humanity survived all of them. They are cockroaches, Vess said dismissively. Yes, Kelrix agreed, surprising everyone. They are. And perhaps that is exactly what this council needs. He turned to face Chancellor Vrax directly. I propose we consider humanity not as a full member, but as something else. An insurance policy. The chamber went silent. Elaborate, Vrax said, his massive form leaning forward with interest. Grant them associate status, Kelrix said. Not full membership, not yet. But a formal relationship with the Council. Allow them to observe our proceedings, to learn from us, to grow. And in exchange, we study them. We learn how they solve problems. We understand their methods. Because Dr. Chen is right about one thing, someday, this council will face a crisis we are not prepared for. When that day comes, we may need someone who specializes in surviving the unsurvivable. You want to keep them as pets, Vess said coldly. Test subjects for our observation. I want to keep them as partners, Kelrix corrected. Junior partners, certainly. But partners nonetheless. We teach them wisdom and stability. They remind us how to adapt and innovate. Both sides benefit. Chancellor Vrax was quiet for a long moment, his ancient eyes distant with thought. Finally, he spoke. This is unprecedented. We have never created an associate status before. We have never encountered a species like humanity before, Kelrix replied. They are the only applicant in council history to argue for acceptance based not on what they have achieved, but on what they might achieve when everything goes wrong. That alone makes them unique. Or insane, Vess added. Perhaps both, Counselor Morn said with what might have been amusement. I support Kelrix's proposal. Associate status allows us to guide them while limiting the risk. If they prove unworthy, we can revoke it. If they prove valuable, we can offer full membership later. The debate continued for another hour, but Kelrix could feel the shift in the chamber. Dr. Chen's speech had done what no applicant had ever done before. She had made the council question itself. Not their power or their wisdom, but their adaptability. Their readiness for an uncertain future. When the vote finally came, it was closer than anyone expected. 123 in favor of associate status. 115 opposed. 9 abstentions. Humanity would not become full members of the Galactic Council today. But they would not be sent home either. Dr. Sarah Chin stood once more on the central platform, this time facing a chamber that watched her with new intensity. Chancellor Vrax's voice echoed through the space. Dr. Chen, the Council has reached a decision. Your application for full membership is denied. Sarah's expression did not change. She had expected this. However, Vrax continued, and Sarah's eyes sharpened. The Council recognizes that humanity presents unique circumstances. We are creating a new designation, Associate Species Status. You will not have voting rights in Council matters. You will not receive the full protections and benefits of membership. But you will be granted observer status, access to Council databases, and the opportunity to prove yourselves worthy of full membership in the future. Sarah bowed deeply, and when she rose, there were tears in her eyes. Not of disappointment, but of something else. Relief. Hope. Determination. The Council has given humanity something more valuable than membership today, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You have given us a chance. And I promise you, honored members, we will not waste it. We will learn from you. We will grow. And someday, when you face a problem that seems impossible, when your technology fails and your wisdom is not enough, we will be here. Ready to fumble our way toward a solution with you. She smiled that strange human smile, the one that showed teeth. Because that is what humans do. We show up. We try. We fail. We learn. And we never, ever quit. Kelrix watched from his seat as the human was transported off the platform. Around him, representatives were already debating whether they had made the right choice. Whether humanity would prove to be an asset or a liability. Whether this unprecedented decision would be remembered as wisdom or folly. Kelrix watched from his seat as the human was transported off the platform. Around him, representatives were already debating whether they had made the right choice. Whether humanity would prove to be an asset or a liability. Whether this unprecedented decision would be remembered as wisdom or folly. But Kelrix was not worried about any of that. He was thinking about what would happen in 100 years, or 1,000, when humanity had learned everything the Council could teach them. When they combined their impossible stubbornness with the wisdom of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The other species in the Council had evolved in stable environments, with time to develop slowly and carefully. Humanity had evolved on a world that tried to kill them constantly, that forced them to adapt or die, that rewarded not wisdom but survival. What would such a species become when given access to all the knowledge and resources of the galaxy? Kelrix did not know. But he suspected the answer would be extraordinary. As he left the chamber, he accessed his personal files and created a new folder. He labeled it simply, Humanity Project, Long-Term Observation. Then he added a note to himself, one he would review in exactly 100 years, check on the humans. See if they have surprised us yet. He suspected the answer would be yes. In fact, he was counting on it.